Hello, I'm Signpost, and I wanted to put this video up in addition to my showcase of the herringbone floor I did in the first base that I've built. I haven't seen any herringbone floor in any of the Valheim builds I've found, and one of the reasons is that it's actually quite tricky. First things off, it's completely impossible to do herringbone floor while using the in-game snap points. It just does not lead to the correct configuration to do it. You have to hold shift and disable snapping and move the floor manually in order to get into the proper positions. Height's also going to be a pretty big factor. If you put it too high, it'll clip through a lot of things, and if it's too low, it'll feel sunken. So what I like to do is actually put a floor down at any normal snap height for a floor. And that gives you a nice little level that's floor high to be able to kind of base your herringbone off of. Reason I do this is because if you use the regular snap points for a beam, you'll notice it just clips right through, and you won't be able to hide any of that later. It's also a very good idea to zoom in over your shoulder to the very closest that you can get so that you can actually see what you're doing. And you hold shift at a 45-degree angle and kind of line up the closest corner with the edge of the floor and then sink it below. And then it's a pretty straightforward process from here of just using the one that you've just placed as the back wall, lining up the corner and sinking it below. You do this for the entire row that you want to run, and then once you're done, you can actually just delete all that flooring you placed. You won't need it again. And what you're left with is this neat little row of mostly the exact same height little pieces. Go ahead and rotate it 45 degrees the other way. And then while placing this side, what you're going to do is you line up the right to make a straight line from the edge all the way to the back. And then you see how when I'm moving it up and down, you can see kind of it clipping through. You're going to want to have it just at the edge of where it's clipping and then push it slightly down below. Whenever you have a gap, go to the closest to the last one you've placed. And I'll tighten up the corner. For the other side, what you're going to want to do is if you sunk it below, this time you're going to clip it just above. Let me see, just a little bit above. And then go ahead and line it up on the left to make a straight line. And then you basically just repeat that process going down. The reason you go above that one is so that you don't compound your offsets and have like a sloped floor. Same thing, you'd be clipping below on this row. If you notice on the last row, you'll have it clipping completely through the wall. Now this is, if it's an outer wall, the easiest way of dealing with this is just getting out your hoe and just raising the earth around it, and that covers the entirety of it. If it's a inner wall, there's actually an even easier way. If you just have a floor piece that's snapped to its normal height, it'll just cover every last one. The floor hides all sins. And this is because we did that level at the beginning, so all of these are going to be below floor height. Just a little bit, but enough to not clip through. If you see one that's a little bit off, you can go ahead and just destroy it and replace it. They will be slightly off because it is all hand done, but for the most part, if you use this, it's not going to be too bad. One thing I'll note is that if you're using like a pathway, this is really nice to kind of put on the side of a pathway. It makes a really nice little pattern because this all goes underneath flooring. You can just use it as just decorative stuff. If you're doing any large amount, I do highly recommend using the larger ones because it will just be much easier and much faster. The process is the exact same. You place the flooring down and then you go in row by row. If you notice though, because of the angles that they're all set at, the longer ones will always marry in to the shorter ones. So you can actually get kind of like a little bit creative in creating different patterns in that way. If you ever need to do it from the end, it is possible by just lining up the square like so. I usually don't do this way because it's usually a good way of not getting your heights correct. To finish out the end piece, there's no need to use a longer piece here. You might as well just use the shorter piece to get less clipping that you have to hide later. Kind of the same thing here. You might get a little bit of clipping. Again, just raise the ground, or it should just be covered by flooring. On the inner pieces, you're going to want to do the smaller pieces and get as much as you can. If you're having a really hard time getting a snap point on one of these, that's because you're not high up, like above it enough, because you need to be able to see the floor in order to kind of get it to the right angle. Now, if you absolutely 100% cannot have these on the outside of your clip, like say you're doing this on the second story or something and it was clipping out, there is a way of actually doing this without having that, and that's at the very end. Instead of doing a diagonal piece, you just have a horizontal piece and you just sink it below. And then the next one will kind of clip into it. I personally don't like doing this on my normal ones, but it is an option. All of these will look, well, all of these should still go underneath flooring pretty easily, but if you find one that doesn't, it's pretty easy to just destroy it and then rebuild it back again at the proper height. Yeah, it looks really nice when, you know, combined together, done underneath flooring or on the side of a room, something like that. Yeah. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you build a little bit more creatively and allows you to design things, especially in a way that's a little bit more difficult.